As Meza yetu, we are welcoming you to our Meza. So the document you have before you is a guideline to our brave space. There are guidelines that should help us to navigate the feelings that you're feeling, not taking up space or taking up space. So I'm going to read what we call our brave space poem. And I read it at every unmothering event. And yeah, so let me start. Welcome to our table. So the reason why we call this our Meza is in 2024 April, we finally registered our organization as the Meza Yetu Collective. So now, we are now known as the Meza Yetu Collective. So we're always welcoming everyone to our table. So welcome to our table, this one. This is the significance of this table. Together, we have invited ourselves to this table, a place not just for safety, but of bravery. Because safe spaces are hard to promise, but brave spaces are hard to hold. Yet here, we sit in this circle. This was supposed to be a circle. Each of us with stories, scars, and truths. In Kiswahili, Meza holds a dual meaning. It is both a table and an act of swallowing. Yes, I know that sounds childish here, but I guess I'm the only childish person here. Swallowing. Here, the table is our ground, a place of belonging and boldness. And swallowing is our willingness to digest complexities, unspoken hurts, and truths we are sometimes afraid to name. There may be moments where we feel like us, this side, versus them. But here, we break that division. We speak not just to be heard, but to hear. So let this circle remind us that there is no corner, there's no edge, and no other. We have brought a talking stick, which is this one, to guide us, a reminder that each voice, every word matters. If something stirs inside you, something unspoken, take the talking stick and share. So anytime you feel something bubbling inside you, just ask someone, anyone who's wearing the unmothering t-shirt, or someone here, Maureen, Roy, or Njeri, to give you the stick. You hold it, and even if someone else is speaking, we'll recognize that you have something burning to share. So take the talking stick and share. This space is yours, and it is ours, to hold, to listen, to challenge, and to grow. We will not be perfect, and this space may not be all we wish it to be, but here we are side by side, in this brave space, building together. Welcome to our table. So we have our first panel, and like I said, I've welcomed you to my sitting room. This is my coffee table. I've given you chai. Umekunywa chai? Mmefurahia hiyo chai nimewapatia. So you've had tea. You're now in my sitting room. We're now about to have a conversation. We have a few aunties, sisters, aunties, mothers, whoever you want to call them, but ni wetu. So imagine this conversation as us having a conversations with our sisters, our aunties, or whoever it is that we want to have. So the first conversation, and I'd like to welcome my panelists. I don't know if I need introductions to some of these powerhouses like Njeri, Migwi. Hey, who does the Lord's work? But I will let them introduce themselves the way they want to be known in this circle. So I'm going to start with myself. My name is Aminah Jasho. I am the founder and lead curator of Unmothering the Woman, and now co-executive director of Meza Yetu Collective. Thank you. So my other co-founder will be here. Her name is Caroline Kioko. She'll be here. And around us, there are so many people, friends and supporters of Unmothering. They will introduce themselves as they go along. But we are all here in this table. I will allow my panelists to introduce themselves as we talk about sex, shame, and reproductive health. And we'll go that way. I'll ask a few questions. Remember, there's the talking stick here. You feel something burning, turn to someone who's next to you, ask for the stick. We will respond, the audience will respond. Tuko pamoja? Thank you. Welcome, Kabisa.
Thanks, Aminah. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Mbugua. Describe myself as is there such a thing as an expressionist? Because I express myself through digital media, through advocacy, activism, global speaking and moderating, and through my foundation, Inua Dada. And honestly, just in an era of truth-telling and agitating for a change that is so necessary that if we don't grab it now, if we don't ask for it now, if we don't demand for it now, then it's really us who are really going to bear those consequences. And I'm also just in a space where I'm coming undone to even speak on panels like this. That was never me a year or two ago. But I think as you evolve beyond certain wounds, you begin to realize, okay, maybe there's something here that I can share. Really happy to be here. Thanks, Aminah, for inviting me. And yeah, we were with Njeri yesterday and just saying how we're really in that era of speaking out. So thank you, everyone. Lovely to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'll start off by saying if you hear my voice shaking, just know I am an introverted person. But yeah, so my name is Joan Miano, but you can call me Nemo. I am a digital content creator and a storyteller. So to pay the bills, I work in advertising, which I actually love. But as a passion, something I've really come to hone in is talking the African story, telling the African woman story, and just being a voice for African women, especially when it comes to sex. Because that's something we rarely talk about, that's something we rarely own as women. So I take that space, and as much as I've said I'm an introvert, when it comes to this topic, I will really, really let you know my thoughts. But I'm also very honored to be in between Njeri and Janet. Like, this is me, right? But I just want us to have a conversation. I can't wait to hear what we all have to say. But yeah, thank you for having me, Aminah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Njeri Migwi. The co-founder of Usikimia, an organization that works towards ending the prevalence of gender-based violence. That's how many people know me. I am a cat mother. I have 4 cats, Boots. Let me tell you something about Boots. Boots brought us meat the other day. It was hot piping nyama choma. I do not know where he got it from, but I am grateful. In these times of glutonomics, life is hard, and my cat has paid his bill. So anybody who tells you cats are not good is lying. My cat gave us nyama choma. All I did was cook ugali, a little bit of kachumbari, and we had dinner. As for the neighbor or whoever the nyama choma, I mean, it's not me. So yes, see, now you know me in another way. I'm really glad to be here. I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about sex. We're not comfortable talking about sex. In the panel, we were with Janet yesterday. I remember I told people the word vagina, you should have seen, because it was a panel full of Christians. You could have seen the offense in there, like vagina, guy. How dare you say it's a vagina? It's not a cookie. Stop telling your children it's a cookie. So yeah, I am in my element today, talking about sex. I know you don't think fat people have sex. We do, and it's good. So we are here. See, you're laughing. You're not looking at me with the eyes of trauma. You know, when people see Njeri, they just think, oh my God, Njeri. You've seen so many baths. Oh yeah, no, please. Today we're not doing oh yes, and yeah. Today we are talking about things that are consistent with us as women and how we present women, femmes, and every other gender that is presented today, because we need to honor all the genders that are here. And yeah, and I'm so glad I'm sitting next to somebody she's tiny, but let me tell you, she's sex positive. She's about to explode your world, yeah? So thank you for having me, Aminah, and let's do it.
Okay, so as you can tell, we are not shy here. And please don't be shy. You can say the word vagina, you can say the word penis. Let's not say coitus the way we usually say it with my friends, intercourse, those things. So let's just be okay with with naming and let's not be shameful. So the topic of today was sex, shame, and reproductive health. And this conversation was reeling in my mind since the last time. I don't know how many of you were here for our last unmothering at Kempinski, where we had, yes, it was wild. It was a wild, wild Kempinski. Oh, my mom was there. By the way, that's my mom, you guys. She was there for that crazy sex-positive conversation. And in the panel, we had a sex therapist, a person who was practicing BDSM. We had a gender diverse person on that team, and we had a pastor and a sex worker. So we were thinking about sex in all of its forms and all of its positivity and all of its whatever that looks like from all corners of all angles. And this specific conversation sparked in me when we were with Janet in New York, doing something or other. And I told her, I'm having a convening, you have to come. And I told her it's going to be about sex and pleasure and shame. And she was like, wow, can I come and talk about how I don't have sex? And I was like, sure, sure, you can come and do that. But I think my first question for you guys is, as women, when we talk about sex, let me just say women and gender diverse people, since we are all inclusive and there are gender diverse people here. So as women and gender diverse people, when we talk about sex to our partners, when we talk about sex to different forms of people in the society, there's an element of shame. And that element of shame comes from different perspectives. I'd like to hear from you, because, I mean, why are you not having sex? And you were like, oh, it's divorce, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I put those two things together, and to me, the first thing that came was shame. When you, first of all, I don't know how many people follow Nemo. Yeah? She says she's an introvert, but the things she puts on, the sex positivity she puts on social media, you'd be like, even me sometimes I'm just like, babe, cover yourself up. You know, so that's another element of shame. Why am I feeling like that? Why am I, when she's showing her body, she's like, oh, I have sex with this man and it's good. Why am I feeling like, hey, babe, hey, please, wacha kuambia kila mtu your business. And the other element of shame for you, Njeri, is, I mean, can we think about what that looks like when it comes to like elements of GBV? Like, what does shame look like to you when it comes to sex, pleasure, and reproductive health? It's a lot, eh? But see how you can answer it.
It's only this year that I've not had sex.
Just to clarify.
I'm just like, I've also never talked about it publicly, but I'm like, Aminah is a safe space, it's fine. I hit pause. In November, I had a meeting with myself. I'm like, you're gonna live in the streets. So it's an interesting journey because, wow, I think I really discovered more of pleasure, etc., beyond the longest relationship I've had. And so I think there was many reasons for it. I guess I was like, okay, I'm out here, And it was always, I guess in a sense, monogamous. I don't know whether or not that matters. But after a while, I think last year at some point, I just thought to myself, I was in a place with someone. It wasn't supposed to go get serious. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. The other day I was like, maybe it was in our heads that it was serious. But I feel like it revealed certain things in me that I hadn't quite reconciled. And so I said, maybe you need to hit pause, because there felt like a sense of validation, which is okay. I mean, pleasure, sex, compliments, all of those things, it's natural, it's normal, it gives you that dopamine, and it's just who we are, it's how we're built. We're built to enjoy this beautiful thing. When it's consensual, when it's safe, it's beautiful. But I had to look inwards and say, the way I'm reacting to certain things, the way I'm imagining this situation beyond what it really is, without looking at the other person, why am I projecting this way? Why did I react this way? Why did I say that I'm going to start where there's no strings attached? Suddenly, when it gets complex, is when I was pulling weird stunts. And I wasn't even drunk, I was sober. So I was sober, I'm like, you pulled that stunt knowing full well that it was a stunt you pulled. Whether it was recoiling, whether it was ghosting, whatever it was, it just wasn't healthy. And so I think is when I started to say, do you maybe need to put pause on this for a bit? Number one, rediscover what it means to love yourself. Because I think after a lot of the different moments and experiences I went through, you're right, there was elements of shame. Divorce comes with shame. Whether or not we want to say it, it comes with shame. So there was shame, there's subtle stigma, some is very out there, some is subtle. The world around you changes. You change. You're a forever changed person who suddenly is having very tough conversations with the family saying, I can come for lunch, but we're not discussing my proceedings. I know you mean well. I know you're coming from a good place. It's triggering to me. I just need to put it aside for lunch today. And so in setting up boundaries and beginning to pour into myself, in beginning to understand what it is that I desired, I said, and by the way, I'm 40. Let me tell you something about sex. When you're like 39, 40, I wish people warn you. I really wish they could. You know yourself better, and it's very liberating. So I'm like, nobody told me about this part, but I'm just gonna have fun. And I was like, I think you're going down a path that you are going to run ahead of yourself because of how liberated you feel. You need to just pause and kind of figure out and reconstitute what your boundaries are, how far you want to go with somebody, how much you want to. I just needed to hit pause. And I said, give yourself a year. It has been the trenches, especially the first half of the year. I was just like, oh, okay. I was also reconnecting with my faith. And it doesn't mean that if you're off faith, you don't know. I'm a believer in the fact that we're very led, complex human beings. I don't like that things are said, if you are in your faith, then you cannot and you shouldn't enjoy and you shouldn't talk about these things. I don't believe in that. Whether or not that's what the doctrine is, I don't believe that. But so for all those reasons, I say to myself, Janet, you want to go back out there and have really healthy relationships, whether it's sexual relationships, whether it's having a partner, whatever it is, you want to do it when you're fully beginning to reconcile who you are. It's not like we ever really fully 100% get there with who we are, but I am at the point where I'm like, I can now fully begin to see what it is that works for me, what doesn't, what are my boundaries, what are not my boundaries. And so that's why I hit pause. So I said, you're going to be celibate for a year. You're not going to date. You're not even going to take coffee because you're thirsty and you'll be trapped. Don't do it. So don't. And I am. And it's fine to say that. I'm just like, I know that there's a possibility of doing that. So celibacy for me is more of, I guess it's my way of taking time to even think through what pleasure I anticipate in future, what pleasure I can ask for in future, without being like embarrassed about it or whatever. A long-winded answer, but that's essentially why I've chosen to be celibate. My friend last week was like, December is ending. How is your January looking? And I remember saying to her, I don't know. I'll see how I feel at the end of the year. And if I wake up in the new year feeling confident enough to date again, I will, and if I don't, I won't. Yeah. So I'm being very patient with myself, and I try not to either watch certain things or hear certain things because, the thirst is real.
The thirst is real.
So that's where I'm coming from.
So I hear from your answer, celibacy is okay, and I hear from your answer, you're on a journey. But I haven't heard from your answer, shame.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm not saying to respond to it. I'm saying like the shame that comes from other people and not from yourself. So maybe we'll come back to that. So who wants to respond first to the question that I asked about sex, shame, and reproductive health? Or do you want me to structure it differently?
It's all right.
Okay.
I'll start off on one of Janet's points. She said one of the reasons even when celibate was to discover who you are. And I feel like this is something we rarely talk about because once you become a mother, or let's say you become a wife, your roles change. You're no longer the individual. You're no longer like me, Joan. You're somebody's wife. You're somebody's mother. So a lot of people tend to forget who they are, right? And this is something that has really started sitting with me. I recently turned 31 actually, so I'm actually, thank you. And one of the conversations or one of the thoughts I was having with myself is, By the time my mother was 31, she had been married and she had her first child because she had me when she was 28. But then now I am slowly becoming to realize my personality. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, there are things I want to do. There's somebody I want to be. Like there's a whole different persona of me that has come up after 31. But then I'm thinking my mom didn't have that opportunity. So I feel like we need to give women the space to be themselves again, because we forget who we are at the end of the day, right? And also I think that's how some of that shame comes in, because you're like, I have to be a mother first. Like I can't just go outside and explore because you'll be said, lakini si when you're a mother, where's your children? Why are you behaving the way you're behaving? Yet it's what you want to do, it's what your soul is craving, right? So I feel like that's where some of the shame comes. And personally, unfortunately, I experienced shame at around, when was this? Like 2017. So I started having sex early. I come from a single parent household. I'm a firstborn, so meaning I raised myself from a very young age. So in high school, I became rebellious. And I was like, oh, they're boys, and I can have fun with boys. So I started having sex early. But then slowly throughout the journey, it's something I didn't feel shame or some type of way. Yes, I'm a teenage girl, I'm not supposed to be having sex, but there was like a thought in my head, I'm like, why is it we advocate for physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, but when it comes to sexual health, we completely forget about it. Yet it's an aspect of us as human beings. But for women, we're like, no, you shouldn't discuss it. You shouldn't even feel about it. You're here to give birth. You're here to raise the next generation of children, procreate, which isn't the case. Then why, when I have enjoyable sex, consensual sex, why do I feel some type of way? Like, why do I feel like an outer body experience? Am I not supposed to be feeling that? So that's how, for me, it came. Because like, if I feel good and I'm not hurting anybody, then there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. But now, towards sometime in 2017, my sister and I were having an argument. Unfortunately, we don't have a relationship. But one of the comments she made to me is like, see, then you just go outside there and sleep with all the boys like you always do. And the tone she put it in was so derogatory, she was trying to shame me for being so positive about who I am. So that's where that shame came from. And for me, I also think like that's why I fight it so much, because I am giving women the space to be like, those thoughts you have with yourself, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, fuck, I have a gorgeous body. Like, you're allowed to feel that. You're allowed to love yourself. So you see the way you responded with seeing my photos. You're like, hey, babes, you just cover up. Why are you showing off? Who told you that me loving and showing off my body should be such a shameful thing? And I like using the context, like our ancestors, they never used to cover up head to toe. Right? They just covered what was important because of dust, environmental factors. But the rest, yeah, true, because it's just dust. We don't want dust there. You see, yeah. So you see, but also you see, we need to stop thinking of enjoying and exploring our bodies as such as a negative, like a no. Like for real, enjoy, have fun, to be honest.
Njeri, response or continuation of your experience?
Right. Repeat my question, because
Let me repeat
mine
your
had
question.
a bit more nuance.
Yes.
So
I think, so Njeri, as we know, you work a lot in the space where actually it's gender-based violence, but it's in different forms. One of the forms that I had been thinking about, it was that aha moment when speaking with Janet or speaking with other people, it comes to me where when you tell me or when you force me to go have an abortion or when you force me to have a child, that is actually a name for it, reproductive coercion. And it's a form of gender-based violence. And so for me, I can tie back everything to shame. And I can tie back everything to you having control over my body. I have no choice or agency over my body. So when you take away those things, choice and agency for me, you add shame to it. And you can shame me to do almost everything. You can shame me to not have sex and then tell me, but you need contraception. You can shame me about my period. You can shame me about having a baby or not having a baby. So I feel like, what does shame, pleasure, sexual reproductive health, and GBV have in common? I feel for me it's shame. It could be different.
the other day, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, on Facebook, somebody wrote a post and it stopped me in my tracks. And this person said that you can't say you're a child-free woman if you've had an abortion. And I have never been so incensed, but I said, filter your thoughts and just sit with it, because that is really one of the worst forms of gaslighting and shaming women I've ever seen. Because I, for one, before I started this work, I probably had different thoughts about abortion. And now that I'm in this GPV space, best believe if you want an abortion, talk to me. Because I have come to realize a lot of us have been conditioned, whether by society, by religion, by so many other factors that make us to who we are and even inform our thoughts, that there is so much shame around things like abortion. Why did you get the abortion? Why are you having an abortion? And do you know what an abortion does? And then why are you having sex after an abortion? You should be ashamed, no? So there's so much shame and stigma around women. Can you imagine being told you can't be a child-free woman when you've had an abortion? And this is somebody who has a large platform. And for me, I felt, I'm still sitting with it now. Rolling back to GBV, and one of the things I get to see a lot is a lot of sexual violence. Actually, when I started Usikimie, remember I was in a relationship and I couldn't have sex. I just couldn't. The thought of having sex was so disgusting because I had seen how many women and children and the kind of violence that had been done on their body. I just couldn't. I couldn't. The thought, I could recoil. You couldn't touch me. No. And I promise you I stayed 4 years without having sex. And just so that you know, Sikimi is 5 years old. So I want you to relate, because the thought of being touched by somebody, for me, was really, really horrible. And a lot of times when you speak to survivors of sexual violence, the one thing they have in common is shame. There's so much shame. Why did I allow myself to be raped? You are not the person who raped yourself, but there is this. Even when you talk to a child and you're just trying to construct, we normally give a child a paper to draw as you're speaking to the child, and you can see the colors the child chooses go towards. They never choose the bright colors. It's always the navies and the blacks and the darker colors. And you realize something, a light has gone. And so even just telling this person, hey, imagine one day you'll have sex and it will be okay. So for me, talking to the survivors has also been a healing journey for myself, to be able to reconcile and to actually be like, oh, I can do this. So, but that also goes also with reproduction coercion. I think we all know what reproduction coercion is, right? And it manifests in so many ways. And I am in the community. I always say I am in the community. In Soweto, and one of the things that women tell us a lot of times, bwana yangu alisema mimi ni mbaridi, so siwezi kunywa dawa. I'm like, hey, that was the first time. So I'm like, baridi aje, like, when ni mbaridi aje, sielewi. Alisema sina joto. So namza joto iko wapi, like sielewi, sukunywa chai, I mean something. Jifunike blanketi, anambia hapana ati uko ndani. I'm like, wababa wa Soweto, what is this? And it has gone and it has enared, and women are being told, if you take contraception, I will not have sex with you because your body is cold. And so these women have gaslit themselves into having sex because you want to have sex. But, so they're not taking contraception. And so there's this woman in my office, she's 27 with 9 children. I'm like, Jehovah, what do I do with you? And then the other way, women are gaslit, and I want to talk to single mothers. Hello? Now, hey, unamitu mjama. Hello, Brio. And then Brio over there is telling you, now we have to have a baby. Me and you, in order for this relationship to, to deepen, lazima tupate mtoto. And you had no plans of getting a baby. You were okay, sindio? And you had plans for you and your baby and your two. But manze, those strokes are fire. So and your thought process is just over there. And kidogo kidogo, you're pregnant. But you really didn't want the pregnancy. If you really reconcile and sit with yourself, you didn't want that baby. And now you have a baby. And suddenly, Brian's left. Now, you have 2 children. And if you really sit down with single mothers and ask them, how did the second baby happen? And where is the father? Stories. But we never really, sometimes I feel like some of us really don't reconcile. And because shame is in it. Especially as a single mother, if you have 2 kids and they don't have the same father, there's this element of shame that happens. And you feel like, and I'm not saying all single mothers, this is not that kind of conversation, but I speak with women on a daily basis. And some of the things they tell me inform a lot of the things I say, because I'm like, oh, I never looked at it that way. There's so much self-correction that has changed with me with running Usikimie and listening to the stories of women and girls.
So Njeri, someone has a talking stick.
I've seen it.
think I'm seeing people nodding. There's some questions over here as well. So, but if you have something burning, you have something burning to say? To respond to Njeri? Okay. Okay, let's do it.
Sorry, Njeri, to put you. I want to give you the correct word they use. I'm a single mother. They say tuchanganye damu. Tuchanganye damu.
I had forgotten.
You have 2 kids. Tuchanganye damu, so that you have more kids with him now. You understand what she was saying? You meet Brayo, you have 1 kid, you're a single mother. Brayo has strokes, or whatever it is he's bringing on the table. Sex strokes. So you are into Brayo. You also want to have a husband. You want your child to have a father, but you did not want to add another child. But Brayo is saying tuchanganye damu because siwezi lea mtoto wa mtu mwingine. That's what's going on. Like, that's what everybody says. Now you wonder, we are not even married. Tunachanganya damu aje. That's why you end up with a mother of 5 with 5 different baby daddies. You understand? Because he didn't commit. You just changanya damu and he left. So you're struggling with 5 baby daddies. That's what I wanted to add on to her.
Yeah, actually, that was the word. I'd forgotten it. Is the fact that, and there's so much shame in it. I don't think we understand how much shame affects us as women, because you're a single mom, maybe by divorce, by whatever reason. I mean, you are allowed to be whatever you want to be, even if it's working and just, I decided to have a child. But the thing is, society has this way of making it look like marriage is the ultimate crux, right? And so at that time and at that position, you want to get married because there's a way you want to belong. I remember my first divorce. Yes, I'm divorced twice. And I will divorce many more times as long as this thing doesn't work. So now my first divorce, now that was my serious divorce. I was a church going member. And the first thing that happened in church was rejection. Right? The people who used to talk to me, laugh with me, started rejecting me. So there was so much shame. And in my head, I was like, my God, what have I done? Maybe I should go back to my husband who used to beat me. And, just get back with him because this shame, this stigma that is associated with this. And let me tell you, and by the way, I need to have sex because...
Yes. So let me allow you to finish that thought and then
yes.
we can go back to thinking about what you said. I want to pick up on, because the conversation around this sex shame and reproductive health is not just coming from us. It's coming from the society.
Yes.
And do you remember we are here to break the patriarchy for sure? Because I usually tell my husband, honestly, I can make anything the patriarchy's fault. Anything. Tell me anything right now. There's no milk in my house. It's the patriarchy's fault. They took the cows and the water, so it's the patriarchy's fault. But on a serious note, I think the myths, the taboos, the stereotypes, the rejection from church comes from somewhere. And as I've had, navigating divorce or navigating a second, third relationship, navigating sexual pleasure or liberation, navigating divorce or celibacy, and the shame that goes with that. How are you navigating that with maybe the children that you have, or in your workplace, or in the work that you do. We've heard from Njeri saying that, it's difficult when a woman comes with 9 children. How do you even start that conversation? So maybe I can start with maybe Nimo. You were talking about abortion publicly, openly.
Yeah.
What does that look like, and how do you navigate that when someone knows you're child-free? What did you say? Child-free? You can't be child-free
And have had abortion.
You can't be child-free and have an abortion. So when you're at work, in your workplace, and someone comes and says, oh, by the way, I heard you had an abortion, you can't be a blah, blah, blah. So how do you navigate that in your everyday spaces?
That's normally a tough one because, yes, there's a lot of shame. And I had an abortion 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So in that situation, what had happened, I had just broken my foot. My relationship was going down the pits. Like when your relationship is about to end, that last few 6 months, it's just craziness. It doesn't make sense. Then I found out I'm pregnant. And I remember the first conversation I had with my partner is like, we can't have this child. First of all, I'll be baby mama number 2, because he just had a child with somebody else, his ex-girlfriend. And then secondly, I have always told myself, I'm not ready to have children until I'm in a solid, stable space. As I mentioned, I come from a single parent household. My mom has 4 kids, 3 girls from my dad, and then my half-brother from my stepdad. But the thing is, I have seen my mom go through shit. Unfortunately, our third born, my sister, came from a case of violence. My mom had just given birth a few months ago, and then she had gone back to work. She's doing her thing. My dad gets drunk. One night, mom comes home. Things happen. We find out she's pregnant, right? I'm 4 years old. The youngest has just been born because my sisters are exactly a year apart. Yeah. So what happened, my grandfather came to her, and the first thing he went and told her is, I'm going to book for you a room at Nairobi Hospital. We're going to have an abortion. Because first, we just gave birth. Secondly, I'm not going to have people start saying that this child is a rape child. So that shame started from my mom. So ever since, even when we have conversations, you can always tell, like, my mom is scared. She might not show it, but you can feel it. And when she found out I had an abortion, her first thought was she was scared. Like, why exactly did you do it? Was it something wrong? Had something happened to you? But I had to sit her down and told her, no, mom, listen, it wasn't like that. I made the choice to not have a child because right now where I am, I can't do that. But now that I publicly speak about it, there are always a few people who come and say, you're used, you've had an abortion. Like, why do you proclaim you're so liberated and sex positive and you want to have kids? I want to have kids in the future, right? But as of now, I want to chill. Like, I am allowed to make that decision and say I don't want to have children. And the thing I've noticed, it's men and unfortunately older women who come with that hate, right? Like, see, you're here to have children. No, I'm not. Who said I am? What if I don't want to have kids at all? Because it takes such a toll on you. And one thing I'm very grateful with social media is how people are now stopping to romanticize pregnancy, stopping to romanticize motherhood. Because there are so many bad things that go wrong. Like, you're pregnant for 9 months, but then you find out it's just a ball of hair and teeth. You see, there are those small things that happen. You lose your teeth. You've never had bad teeth, but after you give birth, all of a sudden you lose all of your teeth. Right? So when these conversations come to me, my first initial thought is normally violence. Me, I'll attack you. Like, no, you don't know my life. You don't know my decisions. And again, you're not allowed to make choices for me. But then I always think about that 16-year-old girl, or that 18-year-old girl, or that 25-year-old girl who just started Jobo, found out she's pregnant, but she doesn't know what to do. Recently, somebody DM'd me, and she said she's scared. She's suicidal because she just finished university. She had plans, but now she's pregnant. The baby daddy doesn't want anything to do with her at all. So she's scared. She texted me. She's like, I'm suicidal. I need help. I don't know what to do. And I had to tell her, it's okay. She's feeling guilty for making the choice to do the abortion. And I'm like, it's fine. The society has made us feel like putting ourselves first, we should feel bad about it. Like, you shouldn't be selfish. You're a woman. Like, it's in your nature to be nurturing, motherly. But no, I'm allowed to be selfish. So at the end of the day, I just remember that girl that's scared, So let me use my voice, because again, not many people talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do, and I'll get aggressive about it. Because at the end of the day, women need that choice. We need that choice back given to us, because it's my body at the end of the day.
Yeah. Have you been seeing the random anti-rights people on Twitter X saying your body, my choice? Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, let's because I know we have a few choice words to say about that, but I saw someone taking the talking stick. And do you want to, before Janet answers the question in her own navigating, because I want you to answer that question based on the fact that you're a public figure. You are a public figure. Whatever that looks like, there's some things that you'd say, even here, someone can be from the media, or someone can share something like Janet Mbugua said it's okay to have an abortion. Like, I know that happens. So I want to hear from you saying that. But do you want to share your question or comment?
So the conversation is a shame, and I want to contribute to some of the spaces where shame comes from. Myself, I am really, really, really passionate about having conversations around sexual health and pleasure. And I have a running joke that for the people in my circle, within our first 2 interactions, I know about their sex lives, because I am always talking about sex. Now, we have mentioned several spaces where shame comes from, and we are realizing it comes a lot from the societies we are in. And I wanted to zone in on specifically pleasure. Like, sometimes the shame comes from the experiences we've had, and perhaps these are things we have had or we can relate to. Most of the conversations online, you hear something about kifo cha mende or starfishing, right? When Njeri mentioned that the women come and tell her that wanaambiwa hao ni wabaridi, there's another version that is meted out on young women when they're now starting to explore their sexual lives, where you're told you're starfishing like ukotu. You know, Lazy Susan, the tray that is round and you just rotate until you get to the dish you want.
Sorry,
Yes.
let me add that people say pillow princesses.
Yes. Yeah. You're a pillow princess, or you're starfishing like ukotu. And when somebody is told that, it brings some level of shame, because quote unquote, they're saying you're sexually inexperienced or you're not like a good sexual partner. And people internalize that, and it translates into some of their other sexual experiences. Another thing is the idea that pleasure is for, not pleasure, sex is for procreation. So the women who ask for pleasure, the women who actually want to experience orgasms and they advocate for them with their voices, they're shamed, like they're called promiscuous, they're called many other names. In a recent film screened by DocuBox, I think they brought out the picture of an old married couple where the woman actually came to the husband and said, hajawai fikishwa kilele. She's never achieved orgasm, and the husband really struggled with it. So they were trying to paint that picture of women who actually ask for pleasure, ask to reach orgasm, are shamed into it. Out of it, another thing is comes from religious circles, and our parents did some of that when they were trying to help us avoid pregnancy in high school by telling us not to lower our windows. That thing about windows, such that when lowering your standard or lowering your window, so when that is drilled into you for years, the day you actually decide to have sex and it's less than ideal, you feel like you have lowered your window. And if you do not, and unless very few people get the chance to do that, so if you do not sit and reconcile or process what has happened, you will keep thinking that every other sexual experience is lowering your window or lowering your standard. And lastly, women who are loud during sex. Janet began by saying she's an expressionist. Wait, I'm going somewhere, let me land. I'm not. So in the world where we have conversations about sex, some people are very expressive, they're loud, they're passionate when they're having sex. So you find some women who are loud, they will mourn loudly, they will use their voice, they will say things, they're shamed because then they're seen as dirty. And those who ask for protection, I have a friend and she's very bold about it. We have these little purses that have Vaseline, lip balm, pocket tissues. In her bag, you will find a packet of condoms, always. And she will not hide it. If she's opening that bag on the table, like applying lip balm, you will see those condoms. Yeah. And people always react. You can see the reaction on people's faces. And people think she's dirty, she's promiscuous. But for us who know her, those condoms have been there for over a year. So there's a shame in people who ask for protection, people who are loud. It is in the language that is used, and that language surrounds us every day. So I would say that shame is all around us. Yeah. Sometimes we absorb it without realizing. Yeah.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that contribution, and thank you for everyone who's using the talking stick. And oh, Mom, has she cut the talking? Oh, wow. Please.
I believe we're in a safe space.
Yes.
And I don't want you guys to judge me, old as I am.
Brave spaces, we don't judge anyone.
I've been a mother for all Aminah's age. So our parents never told us anything about sex. So I want to correct you, Nimo, that when you say older women pass hatred, it's not passing hatred per se. It's not knowing. Because we were not told, I'm 63, what are my rights? What are my sex rights? The man is the one who controls our sexual needs, and we'll go with his mood. So we don't know any better. So when I see you aborting, is who gave you the right? Who gave you the right to go and have sex? Who's telling me about sex at 63? Yeah, so I still don't know even where I am. I'm happy I'm listening to all this and learning so much from you young people. I had 6 brothers and I used to hear them talking about girls and all that. So I was the only girl in between 6 boys. So what am I talking about with them? I'm on the other sex. I can't sit and say, oh, you know, that Jama is good looking, and you know. And in Islam, it's a taboo. You have to wait until you get married, go have the baby, or having an abortion is unheard of. So don't go saying that we are passing hatred. We don't know any better, my dear. It's not in our... Yeah, so tell me at 63 how to go about my sexual needs.
And you're actually, sorry, you're proving a point that I always say. This comes from the patriarchy. Like how you just mentioned, it's the man that controls your body. It's the man that controls your body. So even our grandparents, great-grandparents, that on our mother's side, right, the women, you're never told. You're just, as I said, in the Bible, you're here to procreate. So I agree with that correction.
So what happens to a woman who is married and for 3-4 years she's not had sex? She's been having a dry space. Do I go out? Do I go out look for an older man? Do I go look for a younger man? What am I supposed to do? I go buy a toy? And in Islam, it's an adult. Who's going to tell me what to do? Or what's right or what's wrong?
So, let me... Yes. Well, so this is why we call it a brave space. And, you know, everyone who's here, this is my mother. She's here to join us to have this conversation. But again, I tell people this all the time, that unmothering the woman started from conversations like this. And I tell people this all the time because my mom is here. The first time we started talking about contraception was when I had my first baby. Uongo kweli? I didn't know. And as a Muslim girl, there are some things that you just don't go around asking people. How do I have sex the first time? How do I menstruate correctly? Can I use Let me tell you, one of the most randomest things I used to believe was a tampon is going to remove your virginity. And there's no one that you could go and ask. Even in school. I went to a Catholic school, Lorento Convent, Msongari. Anyone here? I went to Msongari, yes. And in Msongari, the nuns used to show us STD videos. Like, as in that was our extent of sexual conversations. Like, like there would be a class for, I don't know, it used to be called ethics. I don't know what that class used to be, so something. But they'd put us in a room and show us this is what happens when you have sex. You have gonorrhea, you'd have what. So after high school, you go into university and maybe you have your first sexual experience or whatever that looks like. But there are no moments to have conversations with sisters, gender diverse people, with your grandmothers. So this is that space. And I want us to continue having these conversations. And thank you for the people who've taken the talking stick. I wish we had more time. But the people who are supposed to have the second session, I have 30 minutes. You'll give me 35 minutes. The people who are going to have the second session are okay with that? Kabugo? All right. And you're waiting for the stick. The stick is there. It was with mom. It's coming. Okay, you want the stick. Okay, so let's hear from Janet, because Janet needs to leave, and I'm sure other people also. Are you going to stay with us? If you're going to stay, it's fine. But Janet needs to leave. But I want us to tell us, as a public figure, as you're going through your divorce. I know we were mentioning the stories about divorce and whatever. I'm a divorcee as well, so I know how you navigate that. I call it second. What do we call it? Second season. Second season, and if it's good or bad. But for me specifically, as I was navigating shame after divorce, it's those questions for ulimfanya nini? What did you do for him to leave you? The guy used to beat me. What did you do ndo akakuchapa? Why did you leave? Why did you do X and what didn't you do? So even when you're navigating those as a public figure, what does that look like for you?
No, it's hard. I'll also pick up from what she said. You said something, shame lives around us. That's the best way to put it. I think if we did not react to the shame that is bestowed upon us, I think we would navigate the world differently. Women are coming into their own, which is freaking out a lot of people, especially the patriarchy. We're seeing it everywhere. That's why I talk about Afghanistan a lot, because I'm still like, I just can't believe they're not allowed to talk in public in 2024. And that's an affront to agency, because we really are such powerful, beautifully complex human beings as women, and it scares people. And that's why as we're growing old and having these conversations and learning more, you're equipping yourself with the tools to self-empower. So it's a very scary thing for the patriarchy, which wants to remind us who we are, remind us where we come from, remind us to be silent, remind us to only have sex for kids. I truly believe that if none of that existed, these conversations would be an everyday thing. And by the way, I really hope you can do something like this with like 1,000 women. This is very helpful. This is very, very, very helpful. And I'm also learning. I also go into rooms to learn, not only to share. Like I said, sitting here isn't something I've never navigated this conversation, but I'm evolving, and I'm like, lean into those fears of yours and just go there and evolve. So I think this information needs to reach a lot of people. Navigating divorce publicly still stings, but differently, because I think you don't get into a relationship knowing that it will end, per se. You know, the hope is that you'll figure life out together. When that doesn't happen, you completely have to reboot the data system. I'm a very functional person, by the way. I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? Until it caught up with me, because I was go at the time that I was navigating an actually highly publicized breakup. Highly publicized, to a point where I had to go offline for 2 weeks, you know, to just self-preserve, to be present with my kids who were really young at the time, and to figure out, I do a lot of self-checking. I wake up and I'm like gauging the thermometer. I'm like, how are you feeling? Can you leave the house today? No, you can't. Okay, don't. You know, but I think it's the after, when the dust settles, when you're left with your thoughts and feelings, is when the stings come. Could I have done something better? Even though in certain situations like mine, it's like, no, you were not in a healthy space. But it still stings because of the reminders of the shame that you run into when you go into a meeting, when you go to an event, when you go to speak to people. There's reminders of it a little bit. When she's talking, Njeri has talked about the church rejecting. Your neighborhood rejects you. The moms who used to invite you for Christmas, the next lunch, you see them through the window, you're like, wow, I'm not invited now, but they'll be like, hi, how are you? You know, yeah. And they've never confronted you about the conversation, but those ones are the ones that are a reminder that when you go into the room when you're having a Christmas party in the estate, and you go in and realize that those of you who don't have partners weren't invited, that's a very loud but subtle. And it's times like that you have to ask yourself, you have to ride the wave. I say this to a close friend of mine who we went through sort of at the same time. And some days were hard for her. And she's just like, man, I'm just like, ride the wave. If you want to grieve, grieve. Because it's like a death. It's literally like a death. And nobody talks about divorce in detail. Even the way she's saying, whether it's divorce, whether it's violence, it does come back to affect your sex life. Because suddenly you don't see yourself as this bride or partner that you could have been. You're now Janet alone, rethinking and re-navigating the world as a single mom and still trying to be a woman, mom, a founder, all these things. But you still have those moments when you're like, what does it look like? One of the things I thought about the other day, a week ago, somebody sat with me and said, so what does your next partner look like? I was like, I don't know. Yeah. No, guys, I've never thought of, I haven't really taken time to think about it. You know, the people are like, from now on, this is the kind of person. Where I've reached, obviously, so far I'm at like respectful, kind, but I don't know what that story looks like because I've not allowed myself to think about it because I'm not there yet.
Oh, sorry. Just now it's like we're talking. So do you feel like society still puts, I mean, you're Janet Mbugua, come on, like, please, can we just, you're Janet Mbugua. I'm just saying, you're the Janet Mbugua. Can we just clap for her because she is the babe? Accept it. In every context, you are the babe. But does it still feel, like sometimes I feel like I walk into rooms, just the way you said, like being excluded from a party, but then in like you go for a family gathering and people literally just say, but who you knew like on a ex, or you don't have a person. Do you still feel like you're less than? Do some people in the society make you feel like you're less than because you don't have?
Maybe because it could be, I don't know whether the word is overcompensated. So I've never allowed myself to be reduced to that level of pain, which isn't necessarily a flex, it's just a defense mechanism. But when I walk in, and I hear you, people are still very kind and respectful, I still work and all of that. So it's just that you feel like it's a sign on your forehead. Because the moment you move into that room, the way the room is set up, you're no longer the same person you were. You're coming into the room as a new person. And it really intrinsically changes you. So there is still, the thing about shame is that it lives in weird nooks and crannies. It's not always such a huge affront to who you are as a woman. It's in the way you'll frame a question to me. It's in the way you'll even design a digital campaign for me. It's just so intrinsically in people that it's like an unconscious bias. I'm fully aware of it, to the point where I have shock absorbers ready for whichever room I go into, knowing that somebody might throw something at you, a word. The other day, I was signing into a building, and the lady was just like, "Si wewe ni," and then she used my ex-husband's name as like, "Isn't that your surname?" I was like, wait, how did we get here? So you just sign me in, I go and do my thing. And I was with a friend of mine, and they were like, "Are you okay? Because that must have triggered you." I'm like, "No, because I never know when it's gonna come up." It's like a landmine. You walk into a room, sometimes it's people you didn't think would extend the shame, like that person. First of all, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love what you do, but see, your name is..." I'm like, okay. So yes, it doesn't matter if you're a public figure, it doesn't matter if you're a woman. At the end of the day, no matter how high you strive and thrive and whatever, people want to reduce you to who you are. You have to be the one who doesn't give it permission, but that's easier said than done. It takes a lot of self-work to say, you cannot reduce me to the name I used to have. This is who I am now. Adjust, I guess. Adjust, because, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, did you finish your thought? Okay, please.
Shame. I think we need community like this. Because if people feel like they can fall back on a collective or a community, I think they'll be able to navigate the world with less shame. Because shame is isolating. Shame makes you feel like you're the only one moving that way, you're alone. So many people are battling depression, and because they're like, man, I'm really a failure. I'm a failure because I made these vows in front of hundreds of people, and now in front of the world, I'm publicly not that person anymore. But I think a room like this feels like community, because people here are on that wavelength of progress. But most rooms are not like this. Most rooms remind you that you're an ex, that you're a single mom. And that's what perpetuates the shame, because shame is more common with periods, with menopause, with abortion, with divorce. It's shame. And people are obsessed about policing our bodies. Obsessed. I'm like, oh my God, you have your own body. Deal with it. I don't know why you're coming to mine. But we have to understand that over the next few years, we are going to go through a really hectic and intense state of policing, unlike anything we've seen before. I only say that because we're at boiling point in the world. The kind of pushback on women is intense. So we're going to need safety nets and community and mental wellness and awareness. And we're going to, I was saying this on a panel with Njeri yesterday, we're going to need to pay attention. Pay attention to the weird jokes, to the subtle policies that are beginning to make their way to public, because those things will become our prison in the next few years. So even these spaces, Aminah, this brilliant space, this is why the scalability is needed, because it just looks like there's a war. There's a war on women, there's a war on our bodies, a war on how we move in the workplace, how we need to mother, how we need to wife. It's a full-on war to reduce us to the sum total of what people expect us to be, which is just a doormat, you know? So we have to pay attention. Bottom line, guys, pay attention. I'll finish with that line. Two lines. One line is, the reason I talk about this pay attention is because the lady who said it at a conference this year, said it last year. She was at that conference and she said, guys, we need to pay attention to what's happening in my country. And this year in her country, the women can't speak. So this year she was telling the conference, remember I told you guys to pay attention, you know? And the second one is, which is something that drives me and maybe the work I do and how I'm evolving. I think it's an Audre Lorde's quote. I'll try and remember, but it's, I'm not free until every woman is free. I truly, it's a famous quote, but I carry it now every day, short of tattooing it, which is I think the next thing. But it's, you know, and we owe our sisters, we owe our sons. I have very upfront conversations with my sons now about consent, about when they grab something. Once one of them was like, kiss me here. And I kissed him and I said, but you know, in future, if somebody doesn't want to kiss you, they don't have to. And the older son said, yeah, so you walk away. I'm like, you run. You don't pursue the kiss, leave it. You know, and if we don't do that, then we're going to have another generation of brokenness as we see today. So shame, it starts with self. If you do the self-work, and I feel less shame today as I sit here than I did 2 years ago. I'll probably feel less shame next year. That's the only way you can move in the world, is you have to be kind to yourself and say, that happened, that hurt. That's the therapy I need, or prayer, or whatever it is. Tomorrow when I go into that room and moderate this event or speak, I'll speak with less shame because I've done the work. So you want to throw mud at me and be like, you're used, you're old news now. That's fine. I threw that mud at myself 2 years ago, so you're a bit behind. So we really owe it to ourselves to be gentle, but to be aware that we move in a world that expects us to be ashamed of who we are. And how we navigate that is with community, with resources like this, with following the work that people like Njeri do, and really understanding the complex layers in communities and society. Arm yourself with knowledge, resources, and community. The world is going to get crazy. The tipping point beyond that is that we're going to have a healthy society. But before then, there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens. So we just have to be prepared.
Thank you. What does it? No. It just feels like we should wrap it now. Anyway, we have talking sticks. Okay, so I'll just add one more thing to what to what Janet said, and I think for me, again, going back to the reason why Unmothering started is ask questions. Ask why. And we're going into the session for menopause, and I was telling Kabugo, my gynecologist doesn't like when I ask questions. She doesn't. She's just like, I think you just have hormones. I think. But ask questions, allow me to ask questions. And if you're not in a community where people allow you to ask those questions, or maybe give that safety for saying, I don't know. Maybe let's go ask X. The reason why unmothering exists is I want you to sit here, listen to another woman, and feel like you're not alone. And if both of us don't have questions, we're going to have a doctor. The doctor who is here, both of us will ask those questions and they'll say, hey, let me tell you why you're sweating. Let me tell you why your hormones are doing what it is you're doing. But we cannot do that if first, don't recognize the problem. Two, don't let anybody tell you what to do with your own body. Three, ask questions. Ask your doctor, why are you giving me a hormonal coil right now? And I told you my hormones are all over the place. And if that doctor doesn't give you the right answer, what do you say? Bye. Thank you very much. There's another doctor that I can go and ask. But remember to always ask questions. And remember all the things that Janet said as well. So we have 3 more talking sticks, and we have 15 minutes? 10 minutes? We have 10 minutes, I guess. So if we can keep it brief, and then we'll finalize with Njeri. Njeri, uko sawa? Do you need a break? Do you need a break? Unataka chai? Kahawa? Goodies? There's water? Okay. Do you want more? Okay, sawa. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I just want to add to the conversation around divorce. So for me, my parents divorced when I was completing my Form 4. And so I moved in with my mom. And I remember at that time, it wasn't just her shame. It was also, in a way, my shame. And you know, when you're done with Form 4, you want to enter into relationships. You're learning about yourself. You're leaving that relationship to enter into another relationship. And I remember one day my mom was like, I really hope you get to meet someone who you will stick around with. And at that time, I don't think I was in proper relationships. You just know you are young. You do not know better. And I could see the concern she had around that. And of course, I think she was worried because she was like, oh my God, my daughter is having sex with different people and she's not settling on a proper relationship. And also another thing that she used to mention was, watu watafikiria nini mama yako anakufunza kutoka kwa relationship moja kwenda kwa ingine. So there was a lot within that. But then I used to tell myself, you left your marriage because it wasn't working for you. So even for me, I'll be courageous enough to leave relationships that do not serve me because that's what you've taught me. And nowadays when I joke with her, I'm like, oh, haujapata mtu. And then I see her smiling. We are human beings. We want to have companions. But then I think because of that mentality that what will society say, usually she's like, you know, I was married at a time back then and your dad still is around. And I'm just like, you're talking about a man who moved on even before you divorced. So it doesn't really make sense for me, but that's what she's chosen for herself. So yeah, I just wanted to add and say that sometimes it's all about choosing yourself. Of course, we do not exist in a vacuum. There's society, but yeah, just put yourself first. Do what's best for you. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So my name is Elizabeth Liz. I'm in my 40s. I have 2 kids and I'm divorced. And what I'm finding is that sex and pleasure and intimacy is like a buffet table. And I think people look at you like you've gone back 3 times. Like apparently there's a number of times you can go. Like, so you've already been married. What are you doing out here? As if there's a limited number of times you're allowed to try this thing out. So I like when I hear Njeri say, I'll get divorced as many times as it takes for me to get to what I'm happy with. And so I find myself surrounded by people who look at you, like Janet said, it's subtle. Like if your round 1 didn't work, wachia wengine. Or unless you take the rejects, that old kababa over there with 3 kids, the widow. But how dare you be with a young, good-looking man? Like, the buffet table was closed to me because apparently I went 2 times. Or you already have 2 kids. What are you doing with someone with no kids? Let him go and find kids with someone else. And the thing I think that bothers me the most is, I know we say, you know, men are against us, society is against us, is sometimes it's the women. Like Janet said, they don't invite you to a party because it's like you've struck out. So unless you're coming with your partner and your kids and you guys are happy, you guys find a naughty corner, all of you divorced. Yeah, and so that sometimes for me is if the women around you, which is why I like this space, is I think women first have to have that conversation with ourselves, because if you're not inviting your friend because she's divorced or because she's had an abortion, if you can't accept her, then how is the world going to accept her? So I like it when I hear women are having those conversations, because personally, I've gotten that from women, where they don't invite you to parties because our husbands are there and you're coming by yourself.
You're going to take
exactly.
away.
Or your kids come for a sleepover and they're looking for funny behavior because they're coming from a divorced. How dare they be normal? You see how he threw that plate? Uyo ni baba yake hajakuja nyumbani. Because the dad didn't visit, he's exhibiting signs of aggression. So everyone is looking at you through a lens of, and I'm like, listen, if I want to have a casual relationship, my age, my children, nothing, if another person can do it without being looked at in a strange way, what parameters did someone set up that said, you can't go back to the buffet table? It's a buffet table. Let everyone go as many times. Take cake if it's cake they want. Take coffee if it's coffee they want. So I think women do need to have a lot of these conversations for themselves.
Yeah.
Because if the world is not going to protect us, if the men are not going to change, I honestly don't even think these men are going to change, then we protect each other. That's
Liz, thank you. Do we want... Yeah, you want to say something?
In the interest of time, I will save my stories. I'm a storyteller. But I wanted to say I was raised by a feminist. And even as much as I waited for her to knock me on the head, I mean, every step of this journey, she just nodded. You know, just nodded. Because those things she couldn't say, and then there's things she just let me figure it out. So I wanted to say that sometimes and then the men in my, all these baby daddies and whatever actually happened to be feminists as well. So the support that I've gotten through this journey came from the most unexpected places, and a lot of the shame we have comes from within. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, we can take 2 talking stick opportunities, but then I want us to close off because, and again, I apologize, we started late. We want to see if we can do 11:30 for our second session. So the people who are going to stay for that one is going to be late. It's going to be fire because, menopause. Who got the joke? Hot flashes. But yeah, I just want to hear from you guys. If you have anything you want to say back to the audience about what they've shared, or do you want to take more talking sticks and then we close off with you? We can take the talking sticks? Okay. I saw her first, and I saw you, and maybe one more. Yeah, because you came so early. So she came so far from another county.
Hi. This is my first time here, and I'm so happy to be here. My story encompasses everyone, divorcee and et cetera, but mine is more adolescence. So I have 4, I still call them babies, I have 4 children. 2 boys and 2 girls, so I'm very lucky. So I get to see both sides of this journey and trying to help them to navigate a world where I want my boys to be respectful men and I want my girls to be able to speak for themselves. So recently my 11-year-old girl started her period. So when I started my periods, my mom didn't tell me anything. So literally I was the people who were using tissue to begin with, thank you. And then somehow I figured it out and she had a shop, and so I would nick pads, and I used tampons very early because they worked for me, but I had to figure it out myself. So then my 11-year-old daughter gets her first period. First of all, I was expecting her to get hers at 21, yeah? So please. So 11, I was traumatized, and I kid, real trauma, yeah? So I was prepared for it because also I'd seen her best friend had got her period early. So I ordered a beautiful kit from Amazon, so we were ready. And so she comes to me one morning and she's like, Mama, I think my period is here. We'd been talking about it, but the mindset change to be able to even just discuss the period with her from very early, and also have books about it and with their brothers as well. But for me, what I found, it wasn't even shame. I grieved. I grieved when my daughter got her period at 11 because it meant so much. And I could not show her the grief because I needed to show her I was happy for her. But the grief. So we went through the whole thing. I gave her her period. We took pictures. We smiled. But I cried. Because I was like, this is the beginning of the end. Like literally for me, it just felt like this is now years of just periods, the PMS, but also now it means my baby at 11 could have babies if she was in a different society. And I just thought, oh God. So also now navigating her body, and then also drawing the line between telling her, please protect yourself because it's not about her. It's about the world I'm now releasing her into. And the way men will look at her because now she's growing breasts. And it was grief. Like I cried and I cried and I kept thinking, why am I crying so much? Because I know what I'm releasing her into and the shame that she will now have to deal with at some point. Because even in school, I was telling her, your period bag, you carry it with pride. If you need to go and change your pad, do not wait and do not hide and, blah, blah, blah. And I can see she'll do it, but I also know there'll be that backlash. And as I'm telling her brothers, by the way, if you see anything in school, they're all in the same school. If you see anything, if you hear anything, you make sure that you stand up for your sister. But I'm like, the world that I'm releasing her into.
Can I ask a question about the grief? Just sorry to interrupt you, but like, is it because I know all of us kind of feel something. If you have girls, I have 2 girls myself. My mom has girls. Is it the thing that you're always told when you get your period, you become a woman?
Yeah.
Is that the grief that you go through?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the grief. And I don't want her to become that woman in this world.
Sasa umekuwa msichana, enda ukae pale. Stop playing with boys. Stop playing with boys. Where's your put your feet down?
Exactly.
That's the grief. And see, here everyone just saying.
That is the grief. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because it now comes with that shame.
It does. That's where shame starts.
And that's where it begins in adolescence and continues. So I'm working so hard to make sure she never experiences that shame. And even when I talk about it, even the thought of any of my children being shamed just lights a fire in me. But for my babies, it's like I never want her to feel shame. So I always want her to be able to stand up for herself. And like we said, because we've absorbed it so much, we've almost normalized it. But now having to defend somebody from that shame, and you can't ring fence them, you can't bubble wrap them.
Yeah.
But these are very important discussions, but from very early. So also dealing with our own shame and make sure we don't project it to the children.
And
very
mother
important.
yourself. And mother yourself. Thank you. So we'll take one more talking stick and then we come here and we close up.
Good morning. It's still morning, eh? Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for this opportunity. And I really want to thank the panel for this weighty discussion. I'm one of those who had some incisions made on my chest. so that I don't get pregnant. So when we talk about these things, there are serious cultural things that go on. So when we talk about liberating who we are, these are real things that are happening to us. Now, I just want to throw it out here as a challenge to all of us, because we are having this discussion here. We are having it in Nairobi. Okay, Aminah, that doesn't in any way diminish, but it is such a healthy discussion that I feel should go down to the mashinani. Because here, believe it or not, we have a voice, we can speak. We can sit here and speak. But where I am married in the village, because I run an non-profit there, and when we have some social events, you see 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds pregnant. And they are coming in and you hear their stories that they are third, fourth, or fifth wives.
Wow.
And they are 12 years old.
Wow.
And they are 13 years old. It is a big problem in the rural areas. And I wish that this conversation can go down and empower our young girls. There was one time I had a mentoring session and we asked the girls, why do you have, why would you have a relationship early? Okay, and they said, when we are at this age, you must get what we call jabatha. So jabatha means, direct translation, my side person. To kind of keep me warm, okay? So I must have jabatha because it is the understanding amongst the young people. But then when they get pregnant, jabatha runs away, okay? So, and now we have the societal mix of the older men preying on the young girls. I call it preying on the young girls. Okay, then we have border people preying on the young girls. Yeah. Okay, so there are so many, it's like a triple whammy on this young girl. And then that means that they can't even finish school, okay, because they have all these baggages. And then when they get pregnant, no one empowers them, like the way Joan is empowered, for them to make that choice. So then the parent is like, okay, I don't want to waste my school fees on you, so you go be the third, fourth, fifth wife. Okay? So for me, that is my call to this wonderful group. Is there a way that this conversation can trickle down? And I know Janet said it's a fight. Because when you take it to mashinani, you have your mom, you have that mom who still has that cultural belief that no, we can't have these conversations. How are we going to break that? Okay. How are we going to put our foot through the door? Okay. 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know if you all remember, there was a school in Migwi where there were 8 girls in standard 8 who were pregnant. And that school was headed by a woman and the deputy is a woman. And the school has 8 girls in class 8 pregnant. And she said she didn't know what to do. And I'm like, if we women can say we don't know what to do, who is going to save us? Janet, you said, I'm not free until women are free. So we really need to take, it's a fight.
It's a fight.
We need to take this fight.
It's a fight.
And we take it down there. There was a time the government had this ABC push. Abstinence. The B was for, I don't know, behavior change or something. And then C for condom, okay? But abstinence is the one that was promoted, okay? Lakini mwili inakuanga na joto. So if you are busy telling this person to abstain and it is not working, then it means we are not living the holistic cycle. Okay? Very quickly, that is one. Let's think about our young girls. Number 2,
when women become widowed early, in our cultures, they're expected to close their legs and raise the children. So there's a disconnect between what is going on biologically, because they are still young, they are sexually healthy, they still would want companionship and have healthy sexual engagements, but they are told, no, you are a widow, even if you are a widow at 30, at 20-something, at 40, you cannot marry. You cannot be married. So that's another group that we need to think about. And that is the end.
Okay, yes.
Because I'm waiting for menopause, because I'm in menopause.
Yes. I want us to go to menopause. I want us, because we can talk about this. We can talk about this over and over and forever and forever. I want to give her an opportunity to speak as well. Just her, and then we will let us, the panel, say the final word. And then after that, we can go take just a small break. So you can come back into the room with chai or whatever it is, and also take some photos with these fantastic babes that are here. Over here outside, you can use the washroom. So maybe a 10-minute thing in between, because our panelists are here. So what I wanted to say in response to your question is we've been doing unmothering for the last 4 years. Since 2020. It was a seed that was born from, I want to do a documentary about the state of reproductive health in this country is shit. I want to do something about it. But whomst am I? I am nobody. I'm not Janet Mbugua, I'm not Njeri Migwi. I am nobody. So I decided to give I decided to ask questions. That's what I'm very good at. I ask questions. And I ask really pertinent questions that, and it starts with why. Why? Because why? And so to answer your question about why we're not doing it in the mashinani, I have 2 answers for you. Last year, we took ourselves to Mombasa. I'm a Muslim woman. My people are from Mombasa, so I was like, it's easy. I know the culture, I know the people, I know. And I was like, I was going to have, so you'll notice since maybe last year, my intent was to have an intergenerational conversation. Because I realized as I grew older, my mom asks me these questions, why? And I'm like, I don't know. So both of us are asking questions with each other, and we don't know. So she doesn't have a community of people to ask those questions to. We are her community. And as I'm growing older, I can't ask my mother because she doesn't know. Who is she to tell me about menopause? She has not started menopause, she's 63. Eh? You have not. You have not. She's still bleeding as she sits here. So, who am I supposed to? Yes. I beg. So, going back to your question, we took it to the community and had an intergenerational conversation. They're not ready to have it. That's number 1. They're not ready to have it. Number 2, we are biased and privileged. As I sit here, I am a privileged woman. I am biased. I will carry my Nairobi thinking to the mashinani. I'll be like, but why? Mbona usichukue tu maji? Why don't you just do this? 2 years ago, I was doing a project for sex for water. And in my head, I was just like, why are you providing sex for a 15 jug? Like, that was my first bias. I couldn't understand why you're having sex so that you can get a jerry can for 15 bob. So for us to have the mashinani conversations, we need to uncheck ourselves, uncheck our privilege, uncheck our biases, and then whoever is in this room who has access to mashinani, we need to empower them to have those conversations themselves. I'll bring myself, I'll bring my camera, I'll bring my people. But you talk to each other and bring them, or bring whatever knowledge we have for that transfer. But unmothering, going to mashinani, is going to be taking privilege back there. So here as we sit, having this conversation at Social House, eating those pastries outside, mujue mkona privilege. So let's start from there. Sawa? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I guess I'll keep this as short as I am. My name is Sayo. For the purposes of this conversation, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'd like to say I appreciate that Aminah has brought up the women gender diverse persons. And for me, I'm speaking for the sexual and gender minorities. I'm a 23-year-old Kenyan lawyer, but I'm queer, and my sexual existence has been invalidated, even legally speaking. According to some people, probably I'm still a virgin in as much as I have had sexual experiences with my partners. And that is something that I have to live with. And I realized for the queer community, and even looking at other gender non-conforming persons, like intersex persons, and even trans persons, you'd find that this lives on posthumously. Even when you are buried, your parent, when you're taking back to your family, you'll be told this was a girl, this was a heterosexual person. So you don't get the farewell that you deserve. So the shame lives on. It starts at birth and it ends. And I really think, even in the heterosexual space, to all the women here, we were born assigned female at birth, but also assigned heterosexuality at birth, assigned heteronormativity at birth. So we're expected to carry this shame with us all the way to our graves. And I think I'm getting emotional, but this is my experience, to the point that I have experienced an SGBV encounter. You've heard of corrective rape in the queer space. And this is something that you'd find a man telling you that, how do you just do this with a fellow woman? You are clearly not, you're not normal, and we need to correct this. And these are some of the things we need to talk about. So thank you for opening this space up and making it safe for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Remember, this is a safe space. If you don't want to speak and you've not had an opportunity to use the talking stick because we are done, please, we have a pen and paper. Write it down, give it to us after. If you want to share your story, we have a camera, you can share your story, little anecdotes if you want. Roy is here, we can do that. You can send it to us on WhatsApp. It can be anonymous. Share your story with us however you want. Yeah, it's safe. And I'm sorry we didn't have more time to do the talking stick. It seems very popular, so we'll do it again and again. I'll just give Njeri, Joan, and Janet the last word. You can keep it brief or not, but go.
Did you want to particularly ask me something? It's okay.
Can you hear?
It's okay.
You should have a conversation with Njeri. And this is why we're here. And this is why we're here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I try my best. This is, I think, Are we okay? Do we need a few moments? Okay. John will go first.
Okay, because I also easily get emotional. I'll keep it short and sweet. What I'm going to say, and thank you, Mom, for making that comment, because it's also something that we don't think about. Because me as a child, I'm thinking my mom should know this, she should tell me these things, but at times it doesn't happen like that. And one of the things I do for my day job, I work for Sky Girls. I don't know if anybody knows about Sky Girls. So, thank you. So one of the reasons I really love doing this is we need to start early. We need to start these conversations at a young age. We need to tell young girls that it's okay to feel the way you feel. Like, I know we make the comment that when women get to their 30s, you have such a high sex drive, but we minimize that conversation because the horniness, hey, wait, so yeah, you see, so you see, yeah. So you see, like, you're allowed to experience it, you're allowed to feel it. And I want you to do, I'll leave you with one homework. When you go home from today, whenever you take a shower, ama when you get out of your clothes, look at yourself in the mirror, completely naked, and consistently tell yourself how beautiful you are, how sexy you are, and you deserve pleasure. You do deserve to feel amazing when you're with your partner. Whenever somebody's around you and they make you feel happy, enjoy that, sit in that pleasure, enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, life is hard. Being a human being is a struggle. So if you can find those small pockets of pleasure, and if it comes from sex, exploit, have fun with it. Just enjoy at the end of the day.
Thank you. How many of you wrote your homework down? Nobody. Nobody. So, Janet, Njeri?
I honestly don't have much to add. It's personally very liberating because I'm a very private person. I don't really talk about how I'm evolving, why I'm evolving. There's reasons, but this has been like the biggest, warmest hug ever. I love seeing women come into themselves because we really deserve that, right? Because there's so much pain thrown at us all the time. So there's so much, I'm constantly unlearning and checking myself, and it's hard, and I talk about it. I'm like, when you self-audit, be kind to yourself and be like, you need to drop how you do this, you need to edit how you say that. But it's the greatest gift you can give yourself is that to say, I'm holding myself accountable and I'm trying to evolve in a different way, and I'm trying to evolve into my truth. People may not understand it, but is it a truth that's not hurting anybody? Okay. Is it a truth that I resonate with? Okay. I'll cut the losses because at least I can walk in my truth, whatever that looks like. But women need community. Women need community. It can be solitary when you feel like you're going through this journey. So if this is after this, when you're mingling, form community. Don't just mingle and be like, it was so nice to meet you, bye. You know, just try and have a coffee with somebody that you haven't talked to before. Try and ask Aminah when the next sessions will be, no pressure. But community, Osikimye has an amazing community. It's asking Njeri, when can I come and what can I do? Sky Girls, what can I do? So thank you. This has been, for me, this has been a gift.
And Inuadada.
And Inuadada, wow, Janet. So this has, because it's growing independently, which I love. But gift. I have to process a lot of what I heard today, because sometimes the conversations that I keep very inside of me. So it feels nice to exhale to a sense. And I think my homework is just to keep exhaling out loud, healing out loud, as they say, and not in silence. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to say this to every, woman in this room, and also people existing within women bodies, because we still do. One of the biggest things I have learned in this life is that shame is a stumbling block. That shame will keep you in places you should not be. Shame will make you not ask for what you deserve. Shame will keep you in spaces you should have left a long time ago. Shame encompasses us in so many ways, whether it is you're divorced and now your life has changed, whether you're a single mother and society is speaking to you, whether you're a queer woman in all your beautiful queerness and society is looking at you aside, whether you want to even explore your sexuality, whether you want to demand for more. Shame will make you never even achieve orgasm because you don't want to say, give me more. Unaona, because somebody will tell you hapo ndio nimefika mwisho. Shame will have you. It's true though. you need to ask for yourself. Some of you will die without ever achieving orgasm, and it's just terrible, to be honest. And because I talk to women and they say they don't even know what an orgasm is. It's not those things you see on porn. Please unporn yourself and learn healthier mechanisms. But honestly, shame is one of the things that keeps women in abusive relationships because you're afraid to leave, and shame and fear walk hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I need us women to start exploring ourselves. What is the best thing for me? For me. Not for your children, because your children will grow up and they will leave you. Because your partner
may decide to partner with somebody else or just decide to leave, or even be with you but be present somewhere else. I need you to be present and fight for you as women, as women, and even gender diverse people. What best serves you? And how does shame look like for you? Because many times we haven't explored what is shame for me. Where does shame come from? Internalized shame, externalized shame. Sometimes I see a lot of, as we said, internalized misogyny, where we even see jokes on social media. I don't know whether you saw during this whole time, this last 2 weeks, where they would take somebody like, say, Chungwa and feminize him. And it offends me. I don't know whether it offends me, because being a woman is not shameful. But we've been taught that being a woman is shameful. And so those are some of the things you need. You don't have to be popular.
Uko na umama.
Oh, no, uko na umama. I hate that thing. What do you mean uko na? I fight with people on Twitter and I don't even care, because you cannot be using that kind of language talking about us. And I need, as women, to also defend each other. When you find people attacking me, don't pass by like, oh, Njeri, she's brave. No, I'm not. But I'm standing in for you, and I will take in the kicks for you. If I don't, and nobody speaks for us, who else is going to do it? But we all need to, as Janet has clearly enunciated, we need to protect each other. But we also need to be very keenly aware that we as women are being shamed just for our existence. On Twitter again, Twitter is a terrible place. On Twitter again, I just saw scrolling down, and somebody said, wasichana siku hizi ni mtaro. And it had like 5,000 likes. And I was like, what do you mean? And because you have had sex, now you're considered not as good. And I need us to, these things that society keeps on painting, and even to your daughters, unpaint them.
Yeah.
Unpaint them. I have a teenager. I told the teenager, can we come with you for this? And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, sex. She said, but you always talk about sex in this house. Me sikuji. Because I have normalized that conversation, because I don't want anybody else teaching my child things outside of things. And you people sitting in this room, talk to your children. I think that's the thing, so that they don't grow up with the same shame that we grew up with. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay. Wow. I don't know if I can say unpacking, but I'd like to say thank you again to the three of you and to everyone here. I want us to close out this session by, I saw a few people writing notes, so if you want to share those notes and tell us what you think or whatever that looks like, please do. I want to leave you with one thing. I know these wonderful women have shared very, 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 very important things. But I want you to remember one thing when you come out of here. Understand that for you to fight for your own rights, you have to support and fight for others' rights. You can't just sit there while someone else is being attacked and say, ule ni feminism, ule ni abortionist. No. At least live with one thing here that, what did you say? We cannot stop fighting until all, say that thing again. I should read it, but I am not free. Until all women. So we are not free until all women and gender diverse people are free. That's our motto for today. Sawa. So I'd like to thank you again for allowing us to have this session with you, and for listening and for participating. I want us to go outside, yes? For about 10 minutes, take your tea, stretch your legs, take some photos with Janet, with, why am I insisting? No, with Joan and Njeri. Go take some photos. We have a place over there outside. There's a banner, there's whatever. Njeri, our photographer, Roy can take sound bites from there. Tell us what you think, tell us what you feel. If you feel seen, heard, or included. That was the thing I had told you in the beginning. And then we'll come back and have that fantastic session on menopause. Huh?
The quote. Yes. Wait, the quote is by Audre Lorde. I'm so sorry. They're like, Aminah just said we can go. I am not free while any woman isn't free, even when her shackles are different from my own. And I am not free as long as one person of color remains chained.
Yeah? Oh yeah, so I'm being reminded some social media stuff. So karibuni, there's tea outside. If you've already had tea and you still want to stay, please stay. There's water over here. You can take photos, you can do whatever you want, but for 10 minutes. And then we come back. Please do not miss this very lit conversation about menopause and invisibility as you grow older. Please. So, yeah, but if you want to leave, you can. Thank you.